20 years ago, the galaxy watched New Horizon burn. The images never disappeared. Towering cities collapsed beneath orbital fire. Oceans boiled. Millions of civilians vanished in a single night. Across human space, children grew up hearing the same name whispered with fear and hatred. Commander Veyra, the alien warlord who supposedly ordered the massacre. For humanity, she became the face of every nightmare. And for one boy, she became the reason to keep living. That boy was Ethan Carter. He had been 12 years old when the attack happened. One moment, he was eating dinner with his family, arguing with his sister about something so small he could barely remember it now. The next moment, the sky turned red. His father never made it to the evacuation ships. His mother disappeared in the chaos. His sister died, holding his hand as rescue crews searched through the ruins. Ethan survived. Sometimes he wished he hadn't. The pain could have destroyed him. Instead, it transformed him. Year after year, while the galaxy moved on, Ethan chased a single goal. He joined the military, fought in wars, became humanity's youngest fleet commander, then its greatest hero. But none of his victories mattered, because Veyra was still out there. Until now, the announcement spread across thousands of worlds within minutes. Commander Veyra had been captured. The most wanted alien in history was finally in chains. And humanity had chosen Ethan Carter to decide her fate. The execution would be broadcast across the entire galaxy. Billions tuned in. Crowds gathered in city squares. Space stations paused operations. Even alien civilizations that once feared humanity watched nervously. Everyone expected the same ending. A hero confronting the monster who ruined his life. A victim finally getting revenge. Inside the most secure prison ever constructed, Veyra sat alone within a reinforced containment chamber. Energy barriers surrounded her from every direction. Yet she looked calm, almost amused. The heavy doors opened. Ethan stepped inside. For a long moment, neither spoke. The silence felt heavier than gravity itself. Then Veyra smiled. Not the smile of a prisoner. The smile of someone who believed she already knew what would happen next. She expected anger. She expected accusations. She expected death. Instead, Ethan pulled up a chair and sat across from her. The billions watching the broadcast leaned closer to their screens. Then Ethan asked a question no one expected. What really happened on New Horizon? The smile vanished. Veyra froze. For the first time since her capture, fear appeared in her eyes. Real fear. Not fear of execution. Fear something else. Something deeper. Something hidden. She stared at Ethan for several seconds before finally speaking. Her voice was barely above a whisper. You still don't know the truth. Suddenly, alarms exploded throughout the prison. The live broadcast cut to black. Across the galaxy, viewers stared at empty screens in confusion. Government leaders rushed into emergency meetings. Military fleets received classified orders. And deep beneath the prison, Ethan was shown a file so dangerous that entire civilizations had killed to keep it secret. A file proving that the destruction of New Horizon may have been built on a lie. And if the truth became public, the galaxy itself might never be the same again. The prison broadcast had been cut for less than 10 minutes before half the galaxy fell into panic. Governments denied everything. Military officials refused questions. News networks suddenly lost access to their sources. To most people, it looked like a technical failure. Ethan knew better. Someone was terrified. 3 nights later, under maximum secrecy, he returned to the prison. No cameras, no witnesses, no government observers. Just him and the alien he had spent 20 years hunting. Veyra sat quietly as he entered. This time, neither pretended to be enemies. Ethan placed a data tablet on the table. I want proof. Veyra nodded. Then she transferred hundreds of classified files. Military reports. Fleet movement records. Encrypted command logs. Ethan spent hours examining them. The more he read, the colder he became. Every order connected to the destruction of New Horizon carried Veyra's authorization codes. But something was wrong. The timestamps didn't match. The command signals originated from locations where Veyra's flagship had never been. Someone had copied her identity. someone with access to the highest military systems in the galaxy. It wasn't my fleet, Veyra said quietly. By the time I learned what happened, the war had already started. Ethan wanted to reject her story. He wanted to call it another lie. But the evidence was impossible to ignore. For the first time in 20 years, the foundation of his hatred began to crack. If Veyra wasn't responsible, then who was? The answer led somewhere far more dangerous. A hidden network operating behind both human and alien governments. An organization so secret that almost nobody knew it existed. Its members included politicians, military commanders, corporate leaders, and intelligence directors from dozens of civilizations. Their goal was simple: keep the galaxy divided, keep the wars alive. Fear created power, conflict created profit, peace threatened everything they controlled. New Horizon had not been a tragic mistake. It had been a carefully planned sacrifice. Millions of innocent lives exchanged for decades of war. Ethan launched a secret investigation. Immediately, strange things began happening. Witnesses disappeared before he could question them. Evidence vaults were found empty. Entire databases erased themselves overnight. Several investigators assigned to help him suddenly resigned without explanation. One vanished completely. Someone was watching every move he made. Then Ethan uncovered something that chilled him more than the truth about New Horizon. The conspiracy was still active, and they weren't preparing another war. They were preparing something worse. Deep inside a classified military facility, Ethan discovered plans for a weapon capable of triggering attacks across hundreds of worlds simultaneously. If activated, entire civilizations would blame each other within hours. The resulting chaos could kill billions. Not millions, billions. The countdown had already begun. For 20 years, Ethan had dreamed of destroying Veyra. Now he faced a terrible reality. The only person who understood the conspiracy well enough to stop it was the alien he hated most. And if he refused to work with her, countless innocent people would die. The galaxy exploded with outrage. The moment Ethan Carter refused to execute Commander Veyra, everything changed. News channels called it humanity's greatest betrayal. Political leaders demanded investigations. Military officers openly questioned Ethan's loyalty. Across human space, families who had lost loved ones during the war watched in disbelief. To them, Veyra was a monster, and Ethan had just spared her life. Protests erupted on dozens of worlds. Crowds carried images of New Horizons' destruction. Some burned Ethan's portraits in public squares. Others demanded his arrest. The hero who had once united humanity was now becoming its most controversial figure. Yet Ethan refused to back down, because for the first time in 20 years, he was chasing the truth instead of revenge. Hidden from the public eye, Ethan and Veyra began working together. The alliance felt impossible. Every conversation carried years of hatred. Every shared mission reopened old wounds. Neither trusted the other completely, but both understood the stakes. If they failed, billions could die. Following fragments of erased records and stolen intelligence files, they slowly uncovered the shape of the conspiracy. It was bigger than either of them imagined. A secret coalition had been manipulating the galaxy for decades. Wars were not accidents. Economic crises were not random. Political conflicts were carefully engineered. Every major disaster created fear, and fear made powerful people even more powerful. The coalition had become rich selling weapons. They gained influence by controlling information. Entire governments unknowingly danced to their commands. The more Ethan learned, the angrier he became. Millions had died not because of hatred between species. They had died because someone profited from keeping everyone divided. But something else was changing too. For years, Ethan had imagined Veyra as a monster. Now, he was seeing the person behind the legend. One evening aboard a hidden research station, Veyra showed him a small holographic image. It was her family, her parents, her younger brother, all dead, killed during the first years of the war. "They blame me too," she said quietly. Ethan stared at the image. For the first time, he realized they had both lost everything to the same lie. The hatred between them didn't disappear. but it began transforming into something neither expected. Understanding. Then everything fell apart. Without warning, the station's alarms erupted. Red emergency lights flooded the corridors. An assassination squad had found them. Elite operatives stormed the facility from multiple directions. Explosions shook the walls. Security forces were wiped out within minutes. Ethan and Veyra barely escaped through maintenance tunnels as the station collapsed behind them. During the attack, however, they recovered something priceless. A hidden data core. Inside were financial records, secret communications, and encrypted orders connecting the conspiracy to some of the most powerful figures in the galaxy. Finally, they had proof. Real proof. Enough to expose the conspiracy's existence, but not enough to destroy it, because every trail led to one individual. The architect behind everything. The mastermind. A figure so powerful that entire fleets obeyed his commands without question. Protected by the largest military force ever assembled. Untouchable. As Ethan stared at the evidence, he realized the terrible truth. Exposing this man would require more than courage. It would require sacrificing his reputation, his career, and possibly humanity's trust forever. To save the galaxy, Ethan Carter might have to become the most hated human alive. The conspiracy had run out of shadows to hide in, so it chose chaos. Across hundreds of star systems, military sensors suddenly detected coordinated attacks. Defense stations exploded. Communication relays vanished. Civilian cargo routes were ambushed. Every piece of evidence pointed to the same conclusion. The aliens had attacked first. Within hours, panic spread across the galaxy. Human colonies declared emergencies. Alien governments mobilized their fleets. Old fears came rushing back. The wounds of decades of war had never fully healed, and now someone was tearing them open again. This was exactly what the conspiracy wanted. One final war. One final wave of fear. One final opportunity to seize absolute control. Meanwhile, Ethan Carter finally uncovered the identity of the person behind everything. The mastermind was not a hidden criminal. He was not a rogue general. He was Chancellor Adrian Solis, one of the most admired leaders in galactic history. A man celebrated as a peacemaker. A man whose speeches were taught in schools. A man trusted by humans and aliens alike. When Ethan first saw the evidence, even he struggled to believe it. For 30 years, Solis had secretly manipulated both sides of every major conflict. He created enemies. He funded wars. He controlled information. And whenever peace came close, he found a way to destroy it. The galaxy had spent decades worshipping the very person responsible for its suffering. But Solis was prepared. Before Ethan could expose him, a private transmission arrived. The Chancellor appeared on the screen, calm and smiling. "There's still a way out," he said. His offer was simple. Execute Veyra. End the investigation. Tell the public she was responsible for everything. In return, Ethan would become humanity's greatest hero. His name would be remembered forever. The truth would disappear. The war would continue, and billions would never know they had been deceived. When the transmission ended, Ethan sat in silence. The decision before him could change the future of the galaxy. Outside, angry crowds demanded revenge. Political leaders demanded action. Even many of Ethan's closest allies urged him to take the deal. It would be easier, safer, popular, but it would also be a lie. Days later, billions tuned into another galaxy-wide broadcast. Citizens expected a public execution. They expected justice. They expected blood. Ethan walked onto the stage. Veyra stood beside him in restraints. The crowd fell silent. Then Ethan did the one thing nobody expected. He refused to condemn her. Instead, he told the truth. He revealed the conspiracy. He exposed the fake orders that had destroyed New Horizon. He explained how both humans and aliens had been manipulated for decades. And then, before the entire galaxy, he turned toward Veyra. "I forgive you." The reaction was immediate. Shock, anger, confusion. News networks erupted. Governments scrambled to respond. Social systems crashed under the flood of messages. But Ethan wasn't finished. He released every piece of evidence, every hidden file, every secret account, every illegal order, every crime. The truth spread faster than the conspiracy could contain it. Powerful figures began turning against each other. The conspiracy started collapsing. Yet Chancellor Solis had one final move. As his empire fell apart, he activated the false flag operation anyway. Across the galaxy, war fleets received attack orders. Weapons powered up. Commanders moved toward battle positions. The first shots were only hours away. And as Ethan watched thousands of ships preparing for war, he realized a terrifying truth. Exposing the conspiracy had been the easy part. Now he and Veyra had to stop a war that had already begun. The galaxy stood one command away from disaster. Across thousands of star systems, massive fleets faced each other in the darkness of space. Battleships armed their weapons. Missile platforms locked onto targets. Defense networks activated emergency protocols. One transmission, one mistake, one act of fear. That was all it would take to begin the largest war in galactic history. Billions of civilians waited in terror. Parents prepared emergency shelters. Governments declared martial law. News networks counted down the minutes until conflict. The conspiracy had achieved exactly what it wanted. Even after its secrets had been exposed, decades of hatred were still powerful enough to push entire civilizations toward destruction. But Ethan Carter refused to accept that ending. As military leaders prepared for war, he proposed a plan so reckless that many believed he had finally lost his mind. Humanity would not fire first. Humanity would not retaliate. Humanity would not even arm its ships. Instead, hundreds of human vessels crossed directly into the space between opposing fleets completely unarmed. No weapons, no shields, no attack formations, just thousands of volunteers willing to risk their lives. Military commanders across the galaxy watched in disbelief. The human ships should have been destroyed immediately. Instead, they began broadcasting. Every screen, every communication channel, every military network, every civilian frequency. The truth flooded the galaxy. Images of the conspiracy, records of manipulated wars, proof of the false flag attacks, proof that humans and aliens had been victims of the same enemy all along. The broadcast spread faster than military censors could stop them. Soldiers preparing for battle suddenly saw evidence that the war was built on lies. Captains questioned their orders. Entire crews demanded answers. Fleet commanders who had spent their lives fighting one another began opening direct communications. For the first time in generations, fear started losing its grip. Then something remarkable happened. One alien cruiser powered down its weapons. A human destroyer followed. Another ship stood down. Then another, and another. Within hours, entire battle groups refused to engage. The war machine that had been carefully built for decades began collapsing from within. Meanwhile, Chancellor Solis watched everything unravel. The fear he had used to control the galaxy was disappearing. His allies abandoned him. Political leaders turned against him. Military officers refused his commands. For the first time in 30 years, nobody was listening. A joint human-alien task force arrested him before he could escape. The architect of countless wars was finally defeated, and not a single battle had been fought. The galaxy was stunned. For generations, civilizations believed humanity's greatest strength was its fleets, its weapons, or its soldiers. They had misunderstood humanity completely. Humanity's greatest strength was its ability to break the cycle, to choose understanding over hatred, to choose courage over fear. Years later, New Horizon was rebuilt. Beautiful cities rose where ruins once stood. Memorials honored every innocent life lost during the war. Their names would never be forgotten. One morning, Ethan and Veyra stood together overlooking the colony. The same world that had once symbolized destruction now symbolized hope. Neither spoke for several minutes. They simply watched the sunrise. A new generation played in the streets below, free from the hatred that had consumed the past. Ethan smiled. The galaxy had expected revenge. Instead, humanity had chosen something greater, and that choice saved billions. Humanity's true power was never the ability to destroy its enemies. It was the courage to forgive them, unite them, and build a better future when everyone else expected war.